Okay, guys, let's talk about now how you choose your first baseball bat. How do you actually go to a store, like either physically or online, and actually choose the right bat for you? Like if you're a beginner in baseball, if you're like just starting your baseball life. So bats are a little bit trickier to buy than gloves because you actually need to make sure that the bat you're purchasing is actually legal to use wherever you're gonna play. So there's like quite a few different kinds of bats, and different leagues actually have different rules. So like here in the UK for amateur baseball for beginners, we have like the within the London Mats we have like the internal league, the Canal League. So the Canal League actually allows pretty much all kinds of bats. So you can use either like metal bats or wood bats. But if you eventually start to play on the BBF league, either like single A, double A, triple A, or even NBL level, then you must use either composite or wood bats. Okay, so what's the difference between those bats briefly? So aluminum bats or metal bats, they're made of like different alloys. They can also be composite metal bats, meaning like they have the handle is made of like plastic or carbon fiber or some other material to actually make the bat more resistant and durable, and actually like that can be also be designed to actually make the bat more powerful, actually propel the ball further. Or you can have like solid metal bats. Okay, those ones metal bats are like way more they are way more versatile and durable than wood bats. They can have like different configurations in weight, length, so there's quite a lot of options. Those also like in the women's league, they are allowed to in the UK. They're allowed to use like metal bats, so that's another place where you can benefit buying a metal bat. I don't have one here to show as an example, but pretty much everybody saw a metal bat. You can easily find on the internet pictures to show that. Here I have an example of a wood bat. That's my personal bat, the one I use. And important things like when you're buying a bat is that making sure like it has like a correct weight to length ratio, you know. So this information can usually be found like at the bottom of the bat. I don't know if the camera is gonna pick this well, but you can see there's like this bat, for example, it's 33 inches long and it weighs like 30 ounces. So if you get the weight minus the length, that would be a -3. That is called the drop. The drop is actually the measure like most wood bats, they are gonna have a drop of like -3 because that's the minimum weight requirements for the bat. They have to be in this proportion. Other leagues might not have like a drop requirement, so then you can use like lighter bats. So it's very important to actually like make sure that you buy a bat that you are going to be allowed to use in the games in wherever you're going to play in the future. Okay, so like this is very important, like knowing the drop of the bat. And then among like wood bats, you also have like two kinds. Here I have like one example of a composite bat. This bat actually it's not a game bat. This is a coach's bat. It's called like a fungal. So this bat, if you actually look at information in the bottom that I'm gonna show you, it's actually 36 inches and 20 ounces. So this bat is very long. It's very thin, and it's very light because this bat is actually only meant to be used in training to actually have like so it makes easier for the coach to like make like repeated hits like fitting balls for the defender. So this one is for training purposes. It's not meant for games. That's why because it's too light, it wouldn't be accepted in a single A league, and also it will break. This one, like I said, it's a composite bat. So if you actually look close by here, you can see like this part is actually made of wood. It's painted, but it's wood. And if you look at the handle, this material here might not show so well on the video, but this material is actually plastic. And those composite bats, they have the advantage that they last much longer than the regular wood ones. They don't break as easily. So when you're choosing a bat, obviously, let's make a comparison between the three. So aluminum or metal bats, they tend to last very, very long. I've seen aluminum bats going for over like 20 years without breaking. They're very, very durable. Over time, they get a few bends and a few like scuffs here and there. but they can still be used. They're not going to perform as well when they're new. They're not going to propel the ball as hard, but they're very durable. So it might be a good choice for teams if the league allows it. They also tend to propel the ball further, harder. They're like technically easier bats to use. They don't require basically any maintenance. There's no like special techniques to use it. You can use the metal bat basically like in any form, and it can take a lot of abuse. Wood bats, on the other hand, they're way more sensitive. So like one thing you have to be mindful when you buy a wood bat is that they're very prone to break. And one of the things you have to learn very early on if you're a beginner and you want to buy a wood bat, the wood bats always have the markings like this. And the markings are not just like to look pretty. The markings actually, like when you are hitting with this bat, you actually want to have the markings actually pointing up and making contact with the ball, not where the branding of the bat is, because the strong fibers of the wood are actually in this side. So if you just like start hitting like directly on top of the brand, you're gonna break your bat like way sooner than you would if you actually make proper use and actually connect the hard fibers to the ball. So this is very important to keep in mind. And then again, like composite bats don't have that much of a problem because they have like stronger handles. They don't break as often. They also are meant to be used like on the same thing with the brand up, so you get like contact with the strong part of the fibers, so they last longer. Composite bats do break eventually, but they tend to last like way longer than regular wood bats. In terms of like, okay, so which one should I get? It's a very personal thing. Then again, the important thing is making sure the bat you're getting is legal to use on the league you're gonna play. Another important factor is so like overall, like I was saying, aluminum bats, like they last a lot. Like so, like composite bats, they last like way longer than wood bats, so that's an advantage. But they tend to be way more expensive than regular wood bats. So like both aluminum and composite bats, they go from like 100 pounds to 200 pounds depending on the model and the brand. But then again, those bats are expected to last at least 5 years depending on the use. If you aluminum bats can go like way longer than that for 20 years. Composite bats tend to last like 5 years with a lot of luck. Maybe you can push it to 10 if you're not hitting it too hard, you're taking good care of it. And then wood bats, they can last from months to like a few years if you're really lucky and you have good technique. You're like getting all your hits on the stronger part of the bat. And then again, wood bats are also like, they can be pretty cheap. They can go for like 30 pounds all the way to 150 pounds. And regarding like wood bats, you can start with a cheap bat. You can buy a 30-pound bat that have like the correct specifications, the correct drop. But the cheaper the wood bat, it's gonna be a little bit less balanced. It's not gonna feel as nice as a more expensive bat. And the wood is lower quality, so the tendency is that it's gonna break way sooner than a more expensive wood bat would last. So that's something you should consider when you're like making an investment on a bat. Like how long do you expect it to last? So like you can learn quite a lot from a cheap bat, but you have to be aware that like it might end up like breaking, and then you might have to buy another one. And if you're breaking a lot of bats, then maybe it would have been worth to actually buy the more expensive bat to begin with. It's a very hard balance to find. So when buying a bat is basically like making sure you get the right dimensions. So like wood bats, also like adult bats, usually they go from 31 inches up to 34, 35 for really big bats. Most people like the most common size are like 33 inches for like most people. If you have a smaller build, you're a player, like you're not so tall or don't have like a big build, you can go for a 31 usually. So like the bat size kind of goes with your own size. If you're like a really big guy, really long arms, or like really strong. You might want like a bigger bat because it's a little bit heavier. Those heavier bats are going to propel the ball like further away. And then in terms of models, bats have different models, and different models they feel different. So this one, for example, the one that I use, it's called like a 271. The 271 is one of the most popular models. It's the one that like works for most people. So these bats tend to be very the weight distribution is very even. So the bat, because it's very even, they feel like very light when you're swinging it. They're easy to control. Another very popular model for beginners that work for a lot of people would be the 110. Different brands sometimes called like M110 or L110 because they have like minor differences between brands. So like those models are usually the most popular ones. It doesn't mean that they're going to be the right one for you. The best way to actually find out what model actually works for you is actually going to the baseball field, like borrowing some bats from other people, swinging different bats, and like, okay, I swung that one, like I really like it. What model is it? Check the model, see, like try to experiment with different models, different sizes to see, okay, this feels like too light or it feels too heavy. It's basically trial and error. It's a very personal thing. And then again, you have other models like that are more meant to hit like for home runs, hit like for absolute power. And then those models, they're not going to be so well balanced. They're going to be more like end loaded. They're going to have like thicker barrels. They're going to be heavier on the thick part of the bat. And then they feel kind of heavy to swing. Those usually are not favored for beginners. Beginners usually don't like those. They're harder to swing. Very few people actually go for this end loaded models. Like they're more like meant for professionals because they propel the ball more, but they're harder to actually control and actually get hits out of it. So I guess in summary, that would be like some good guidelines to actually choose bats. Bats are like are way more complicated than gloves. So another like good advice, yeah, try to borrow bats, swing different bats until you get it. Like it's not something as essential as the glove to buy because most teams and most clubs, they have like collective bats that everybody can use. So it's not something you should rush the decision to get one. But obviously, if you're very eager to get one, it gives you the possibility of training by yourself and actually training at home and starting to kind of get more used to the bat, which is an advantage to actually learn faster. So I guess that's pretty much the sum of it. And then again, if you have any doubts, any questions, can always like leave a comment, on the video, like just get in contact with one of the coaches on the London Mats, and we'll be happy to like assist you further, like show you the bat and actually give you extra advice or anything you might want to ask. Okay, cool. Cheers, guys.